I am Erma Ellis, and I was born in September 1946, so I'll be 80 years old this year. And I have lived in the area for, let's see, 75 years, really. So my dad came here, so we were in Newberry County, and Dad came down here when the plant came in 1951, and then we came in 53, 54, and he has a construction company, Hyatt Construction Company. He built most of the houses in Jackson, in Barnwell, Williston, for all the people that were coming to SRS. And my mom worked, but she also had her construction license and she had her real estate license. So she helped him out. And it was such a strange thing from where we came from to here, and we did have dirt streets. We played in the mud. We played in anything we could find. It didn't matter. And a really good friend of mine, Wallace Castle, and Wallace's dad had a funeral home that was on First Street. Wallace and I played in the basement of that funeral home many, many times. It was a lot of fun. It really was, and we weren't scared, so, but my dad did, and in fact, James Brown worked for my dad. My dad would take in people if they were on probation for something to teach them how to lay bricks or something. And so he had James Brown, right before James Brown went to H.L. Green's and started to Shining Shoes and singing. And my dad would drag us over there every Saturday to get his shoes done. So, that was an experience to know that, hey, look, this guy, was with my dad. Yeah, there's a connection there. There were a lot of boarding houses in this area. Mrs. Beard had one on First Street. There were several others, and they had trailer parks. And this is something probably a lot of people don't know. There was a Ford dealership in Jackson on 125 in the 50s. My mom bought her car, first Ford, and it did not stay there long, but there was one just about in the area where the hilltop is at. The Floyds lived there right across from our school when they built the high school up onto 125. And I have a tape that I got, and I've had it for a long time, from the Floyds, and it has pictures of the Christmas parade with the dirt streets. We had bars, we had nightclubs, we had dance halls, all these things that were going on because of the construction, and bringing in men. We had a dance studio down on Silverton Street when we were little, probably maybe 10 to 12 years old, and we loved it. We all went down and took ballroom dancing and had it. We rode our bicycles, we played in our yards, like kids don't do now. And and Dr. Robert Hill, his dad owned Home and Auto down Main Street. So Robert used to work in there a lot. And he says, a lot of times when he sees me, he says, I remember all these kids, y'all all came in, you got your moon pies and your drinks. And we did. We also had Dickie Curtin that lived across the street from us on First Street when we first moved here. And Brenda Lee lived in Jackson. Well, Dickie sang with Brenda Lee a lot. And she would come to his house, and we would all go over and, visit. And when she went to record, he was offered a chance, but he did not go. So, and most of us that grew up with him knew that. Then we had lots of beauty shops. Starting off, we had Estelle's beauty shop, Irene's beauty shop, and we had Betty McClure's beauty shop. Linda Bennett worked with her. We had Diane Castle's beauty shop all these years. We had Irma's Clip and Curl, which was mine, and I supported the youth baseball team too. So, and I coached one of the little farm teams, Miss Faye Foreman and I did. So we were active within the community, and I worked with First Baptist Church, with the youth, with the seniors, and we had dirt floors in the basement when we had our Sunday school classes in the early 60s or late 50s.
I found where you were Erma Waffle House one time.
Yeah.
In a fashion show.
Yes.
Here at the Jackson
Church.
That was so cool.
Yes.
What was that about? It was
Well,
a fashion show?
yeah, it was a fashion show, and you had to dress like some of the places that you chose. You would do that, yeah. So we did that. The ladies, the senior people, and it was wonderful. It really was. And I keep telling me, you can't build a town up if you don't knock on doors and ask people to do it. And that's what Mr. Brinkley, my dad, Mr. Thornton, that's what all these people did, was they knocked on doors to get things here. And the Red and White used to be on Silverton Street next to the dance studio. And then it moved in, down on the main street later. So, but we had the banking company, we had, and you were asking what we do for fun, other than riding bikes and playing games and visiting. We had, Bill Good ran a pharmacy, and he had a fountain for sodas, for food, for milkshakes, for anything. So we would go down and sit in there, and we would enjoy just the time that we had there. And I hate it that it's not there now. I really do. Mr. R.C. Tisdale, he had an insurance company down near the banking company and the, goods pharmacy. And he sold insurance, car insurance and everything. And when Faye came to Jackson, and we lived back here behind the church, Faye lived in the second house from the church. I think it is, or third house from the church. And we would go to her house, and she would fix us country fried steak. And I'd never had it. I was like, I don't know what this is. So we loved it. And then she decided to open up the restaurant. And so we played with Dana all the time. And Dana sang, as you know that. She died singing. But she was so sweet. But Faye did. She opened up the restaurant. And it was one of the best, really, that we've had here in Jackson. And it was really good. And she was so good to people in the community. She would take them food if they were sick. She was, here in the church, and Dana was in the church. But we had also, T. Phillips had Western Auto, and he had that, and he sang here in the church, and he was a good person. And we had the McElmurrays had their farm, and we had Gene Collier's cloth store. We had the Osteen's cloth store. We had telecommunications, where Scott Heyer was the one that worked with our telephones. We had Burkhalter's Garage, Brinkley's service station, the post office, which was on Silverton Street. I'm trying to think of some of the others the Masons down on, and we had ice houses. That's where we got our ice. We would have to go down there. You get big blocks of ice. They put it in something, you bring it home. And we had Alexander's store, which they had just about anything and everything you could think of. And then we also had a house here in Jackson that probably a lot of people don't know about. Mr. and Miss Ellis lived in a house that was built by the King of England from the 1700s. And it was moved here. But also the Pentagon was looking for wood for their floor at the Pentagon, and they could not find the wood to match. They went online, and they kept looking for places that were built that had it. Miss Ellis's house happened to have the same flooring that they needed for the Pentagon. So they came in and took flooring out of her dining room, and they replaced it with something else. And so that was on the registry too. But she took it off because they had so many people coming in and out that she decided she wasn't going to do it. We had the train station, which all the kids, my sister included, they would go get the train on Saturdays. They would go into Augusta, and they would just have a ball. Bonnie Brannon, we go with her, Mary Alice Caldwell at the time, some of them. And then they'd catch the train back in the evening, and we'd go pick them up. We had tennis courts behind the school, and we had someone that taught tennis as well as we had the golf course back there. And we had, when we first came in the 50s, we had a movie theater, outside drive-in theater, that you went, it was right there near the tower, fire tower. And we would go up there and we would watch movies. You could get out of the car and sit on the ground and things, but we did a lot of those things. And we had a putting range there and a driving range in that area right beside the fire tower, and that was a lot of fun because kids could go up there, and they had a little bit more than us, but they could go up there. And my dad had the building where they have now, I think they rent equipment or something right across from the service station going to Drag Strip, and that he had his office there, and he had a swimming pool where all the young people could come and they could swim. And that was one of the first pools in the Jackson area. So, and then out at the site, going to the site, they had a big park out there with swimming pool. They had where you could cook, picnic tables. I mean, the whole works, the Army Corps did. And my third grade teacher, Miss Satcher, she took Wallace and I out there all the time. And we would eat, after school or something. She was really she just took us, and we couldn't figure out why, but she took us. She liked us, I guess. And our school was down at the City Hall area now. That's where we started school. And, and we walked home, and we had fun. And, we'd walk from where we lived downtown to the high school. And we didn't have the buses that we have today to do this, and the kids didn't have cars like they have this day and time either. So, but the JCs and JCs were involved in a lot of the Centennial and a lot of other programs that they had parades, they had weekends, they would set something up, have fun for the kids and games and food and everything. So we were part of the JCs. It was just a wonderful town. And now I live in North Augusta, but I come back here often. Sometimes I come to church. Sometimes I come out and see somebody that's sick. I come to a funeral. It's part of home. Yeah, it's home. It's one thing is to learn to communicate with the people that are in town that need help. Even children can do it. And then the other thing is, I know you have your council. And when they see things that they feel like we need to do this, or this is something for the future, go to the council and talk to them. And another thing is they can get out here and knock on doors too to try to get businesses here. Just because they're younger, a lot of the kids are, it doesn't mean they can't say, hey, look, let's see if we can get something done. I think there's a 14-year-old running for, governor or mayor in one of the towns, and I'm thinking, look what he's doing. These kids can do this. If they want Jackson to be better, and if they want things that they can do and everything, they need to get on the ball too with the adults.